Okay, thank you. Welcome to the Committee on Education. I know we're getting started a little late today, but that happens as we get going in session, and there's a lot of things going on, and this being a deadline week, there's a lot of hearings, and sometimes they go over and throws everything. So we welcome you to the Senate Committee on Education. And Secretary, will you please call the roll?
Vice Chair Dondero-Loop.
Here.
Senator Hardy. Senator Hammond.
Here.
Senator Lang.
Here.
Senator Buck.
Here.
Senator Donate.
Here.
Chair Dennis.
Here, thank you very much. And please record. We do have a quorum. Oh, and there's Senator Hardy. Mark him here. I just saw him popping in. All right. With that, let's move on. Just a couple housekeeping items because we may have some. We do have a bill today, and we're going to hear some testimony. For those on video, keep yourself muted when not speaking. All of our committee information is available on Nellis, which could be accessed through the legislature's website. You may also watch our meetings through Nellis or the YouTube channel, legislature's YouTube channel. And if testifying, please provide testifying or providing public comment, register to participate through Nellis. You will receive an email confirmation with the call-in information. And detailed instructions are also available on the help page on top of every page on Nellis. And make sure you, when you're speaking to when testifying, state and spell your name and affiliation, if any. Also, you have to do that every time you speak because if we're switching between people, just to make the record straight to who said what. So if you would identify yourself. And we're going to take public comment at the very end of the meeting and limited to 2 minutes per person. And you can also submit your comments in writing, and you can submit it also to the committee manager through emailing or faxing. We are going to first, we have, today's a special day. Today is CSN Day, and we've got a special few moments here where we're going to recognize and welcome the College of Southern Nevada students who are attending virtually and listening to this meeting. So today is CSN Day at the legislature. Quick facts, 2019 fall enrollment was just under 3,400 students. Total awards conferred in 2020 was over 3,500. Almost 2,000 high school students in 2018 participated in dual enrollment at CSN. In 2018, 1961 CSN high school seniors earned an associate degree before graduating high school. All of us on this committee are passionate about education issues. I think I can speak for all the committee members in saying we always appreciate hearing from our students. The reason we are here and do what we do is because of our students. And we have examined issues such as higher education affordability, Silver State Opportunity Grants, Millennium Scholarship, Nevada Promise, the new co-requisite approach versus remedial course requirements, and student safety, health, and well-being issues. And so it's always great to have you with us. Again, welcome to all. And we're going to hear from two special guests, CSN President, Dr. Federico Zaragoza, and then we will hear from the ACSCN Student Body President, Carly McFarlane Kelly. So we'll go to Dr. Zaragoza.
Good afternoon, Chair Dennis and members of the Senate Education Committee. For the record, I am Federico Zaragoza, President of the College of Southern Nevada. This afternoon, I'm here on behalf of the almost 50,000 credit and non-credit students that attend one of our 3 CSN campuses. And I need to emphasize that there are 35,000 degree-seeking credit students, but we have 15,000 non-credit students. Therefore, the 50,000 threshold that I mentioned earlier. Today is also CSN Virtual Day at the legislature, and you'll hear more from our student body president, Carly McFarlane, in a few minutes. But I would like to take just a few minutes to thank Senator Mo Dennis for his support of higher education, and particularly the College of Southern Nevada during his stellar career of almost 2 decades of service in the Nevada State Legislature. At CSN, we consider Senator Dennis as a true champion for public education. He has a proven track record as an advocate for increasing access to higher education and for fighting to secure those resources that students need in order to succeed. Senator Dennis has played a prominent role in the deliberations of every major piece of education legislation since his election to the State Assembly in 2004, and subsequently his election to the State Senate in 2010. His landmark work to overhaul the state's outdated education funding formula will benefit Nevadans for generations to come. And more recently, his work on the Nevada Promise Scholarship Program will help to promote a college-going culture in all of our state's diverse communities. As the first Latino president at CSN, I take great pride in acknowledging that Senator Dennis is the son of an immigrant, parents from Cuba, and that he continues to fight for the betterment of all Nevadans. Senator Dennis, thank you, and please know that your work and legacy as the champion for education is secure. I thank you on behalf of the College of Southern Nevada and the thousands of students that you have impacted in our state. And finally, please accept my appreciation for the opportunity to speak before this esteemed body.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the kind words, but we're here to celebrate you guys today. Thank you. So we're going to hear now from the student body president.
Good afternoon, Chair Dennis. Hi, good afternoon, Chair Dennis and members of the Senate Education Committee. My name is Carly McFarland Kelly, and I'm the president of the ASCS and Student Government. And I want to thank you, Senator Dennis, for the opportunity to present today before the Senate Education Committee. Today is our first and hopefully our last citizen day at the legislature that is virtual. Our students are meeting with over a dozen state legislatures throughout the day. And I want to give a special thanks to Senator Joe Hardy and Assemblywoman Rochelle Wynn for our meeting with our students this morning. Today we premiere our Citizen Day at the Legislature video. This video includes compelling testimony from CSN administrators, students, and faculty about our 2021 legislative priorities. Speakers include Governor Sisolak, Attorney General Ford, Superintendent Jara, and Senator Dennis, and many more. We encourage all of you to watch our video at www.csn.edu/CSN Day. Also, heads up to our state legislatures, our citizen family will be tagging you on our social media, mostly Twitter, throughout the day, encouraging you to watch our video and support our priorities. We're using hashtag Citizen Day 21 to promote the day. Thank you for your time and your support for all citizen students.
Harley, thank you very much. And thank you for continuing on, even though we're in a pandemic, continue on with your education and trying to help the CSN and all the students. So thank you for being with us today. And thank you to all the students that are participating today in the CSN virtual legislative day. Thank you very much. All right, so we will go on to our agenda. Let me get to the agenda. We're gonna, since everybody's here, and I haven't heard if anybody has to leave to go present. And I know we've got to get done so that my vice chair can get to her committee. But I want to start with the work sessions first, and then we'll go to the bill. I'm going to turn it over to Jen Sturm, who will walk us through the work sessions, and hopefully those are all available on the website, the documents, and so that you can follow along.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jen Sturm, Committee Policy Analyst. Again, as nonpartisan LCB staff, we do not advocate for or against any legislation. The work session documents, as Chair Dennis mentioned, may be found on Nellis for those who want to follow along. And we have 7 bills on today's work session, beginning with Senate Bill 76, which was presented by Nevada's Department of Education and heard on February 17th. Senate Bill 76 makes various changes to the membership, duties, and reporting requirements of several councils, committees, and other entities. Additionally, the bill abolishes several entities and transfers certain duties of those bodies to the Department of Education. Senate Bill 76 also changes the submission and reporting requirements of the plan to improve the achievement of pupils currently provided by the State Board of Education. 2, report regarding bullying or cyberbullying incidents currently provided by school personnel. And 3, variance requests regarding pupil to teacher ratios currently provided by school districts and the State Board of Education. And there is a mock-up attached to this work session document, which reflects the following amendments. Clark County Education Association proposed to include representation from the association on the Teachers and Leaders Council of Nevada. The Department of Education, in its first submitted amendment, is proposing to abolish the competency-based education network, revise the Regional Professional Development Program, also known as Regional Training Program, provisions to restore school districts as the fiscal agent and include charter school teachers, prospectively abolish the State Financial Literacy Advisory Council on December 31st of 2023, eliminate references to the end of course examinations, allow dual credit courses from out-of-state higher education institutions in certain circumstances, and remove language that abolishes the Nevada Commission on Mentoring and instead eliminate responsibility for the Department of Education to support the commission. And then in the Department of Education's second submitted amendment, which includes changes requested by the Nevada Association of School Superintendents, the following amendments were proposed. Restore control of the RPDPs by governing bodies, with the Department of Education still replacing the statewide council for the coordination of the regional training programs. Make the employee of the Department of Education who serves on each RPDP governing body a voting rather than non-voting member. Eliminate all reporting requirements by the Department of Education or school districts relating to Zoom and Victory schools or the new Nevada Education Funding Plan. And finally, revise independent evaluation requirements relating to Zoom, Victory, Read by Grade 3, and the Great Teaching and Leading Fund. Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. So we do have, I mean, there was a lot of changes on the original one that they brought, and then they've had some additional ones with the RPDP. So I know we have the department here. So if you have any questions on on any of that, actually, and they're here, I'm glad to answer any questions there. Any questions from anybody that we need to bring either the department up or Dr. Hard or Senator Hardy?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we're eliminating reporting because we got rid of the Read by 3 and Great Teaching and Lending and Zoom and Victory. Is that why we're doing that?
No, but it's because of the way that they're going to be doing that. But if the department's here, they could speak to that.
Thank you, Chair Dennis. This is Sarah Nick on behalf of the Nevada Department of Education. Chair, through you to Senator Hardy. Senator Hardy, those recommended amendments did not take away the programs. They just simply removed and streamlined the reporting requirements.
So how will we know that they work?
Thank you, Senator Hardy. So you'll notice, and thank you also to legal counsel and Mr. Asher Killian and Jen Sturm for the mock-up that is posted online. You'll see that the department has requested and legal counsel has supplied updated reporting language so that these programs, should money become available, are reported on by an independent evaluator on a rotating basis.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I would point out also that, with the new funding formula and how all that works, we're not changing the statutes that like for Read by 3. That's still in there, and it's still a requirement that they do those things. It's just inside the funding formula as opposed to outside. So, but the report, my understanding with all of these changes that we're doing, is to just streamline it to make sure that we can get the information and do it in a more streamlined way than we've been doing in the past. Other questions? I am not seeing any. What is the desire of the committee?
Move to approve.
We have a motion by Senator Hardy to amend and do pass, I believe would be the motion.
That's exactly what I meant.
Yes.
I'll second that.
We have a second from Vice Chair Dondero Loop. Any further discussion on the motion? Okay, I'm not seeing any. If we will go take the roll call vote.
Vice Chair Dondero Loop,
Yes.
Senator Hardy,
Yes.
Senator Hammond,
Yes.
Senator Lang,
Yes.
Senator Buck,
Yes.
Senator Donate,
Yes.
Chair Dennis.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. All right. We'll now move to work session on SB 151.
Mr. Chair, Jen Sturm, Committee Policy Analyst. The next bill on work session is Senate Bill 151, which is sponsored by Senator Dondero Loop and was heard on March 10th. The bill requires the Board of Trustees in Nevada's 2 largest school districts to develop plans to improve the ratio between pupils and specialized instructional support personnel, including recruitment and retention strategies for such personnel and annual targets to meet the recommended ratios. The bill requires each of the 2 districts to submit an annual report to Nevada's Department of Education concerning its plan and the plan's effectiveness. The Department of Education must then submit a compiled report to the governor, the legislature, and the State Board of Education. Additionally, Senate Bill 151 requires school counselors, psychologists, and social workers to complete continuing education credits as established by the Commission on Professional Standards in Education. And the committee will note that there was one amendment proposed by Nevada's Department of Education to require the Board of Examiners for Social Workers to set the continuing education requirements for a teaching license for school social workers. Mr. Chair.
I guess I should unmute before I start talking. Senator Dondero Loop, any thing that you need to talk about as far as with the amendments or?
No, I think the amendment made it very clear, and I was actually kind of chuckling because just when Senator Hardy was worried about reports, we have more. So we are here to answer questions, and I believe Dr. Katie Duckweiler, who presented with me, is on the line, but I think that we have it where we want it to be right now. Thank you.
Did you want to address the, it says it contains an unfunded mandate, but I thought we had a discussion about that during the hearing.
We did, Chair. And the cost, the approximate 960 fiscal cost for the biennium is that it will require some new work for the reports by the Nevada Department of Ed. But I think we have that all worked out. If not, it might be grabbed by finance.
Okay, all right, thank you. So questions, do we have any questions?
And do pass.
We have a motion to amend and do pass.
Second.
Second from, was that Donate or Hammond? You guys, it was Hammond. Okay, Senator Hammond. Second, do we have any further discussion on the motion? Okay, let's go to the roll call vote.
Vice Chair Dondero Loop,
Yes?
Senator Hardy,
Yes.
Senator Hammond,
Yes.
Senator Lang,
Yes.
Senator Buck,
Yes.
Senator Denali,
Yes.
Chair Dennis.
Yes, thank you. Motion passes. Okay, let's go on then to Senate Bill 194.
Chair, can I, before you go on,
Yes.
I know you have to assign floor statements, but I thought I'd interject here. If you want me to take that floor statement, I will.
Sorry, I want you to do that one, and if Senator Lang would do the first one that we did.
I will.
Thank you for reminding me. I had written it down and I wrote it down on the thing who was going to do it, and I hadn't.
We all need all the help we can get, so we're in here as a team.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, so then let's go on to 194.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Jen Sturm, Committee Policy Analyst. The next bill on work session is Senate Bill 194, which is sponsored by Senator Lang, and we heard this bill on March 29th. Senate Bill 194 establishes the State Seal of Civics program to be awarded to high school graduates with a high level of proficiency in civics and outlines the requirements needed to earn the state seal. The bill requires the state superintendent to enter into a cooperative agreement with at least one higher education institution to grant credit for certain courses. Furthermore, the bill requires the state superintendent to adopt regulations that would allow the superintendent to provide a school student or school employee with a civics education excellence designation. The bill requires the superintendent to establish the Pupil Civic Advisory Panel. Additionally, SB 194 requires the results from the civics exam currently administered to high school students to be reported to the Department of Education. The bill also adds civics to the list of subjects included within social studies and requires the corresponding establishment of standards of content and performance. Starting with the graduating class of 2027, social studies instruction must require a high school student to complete a service learning project. And finally, Senate Bill 184 includes additional communities in the list of communities whose culture, history, and contributions must be examined within the standards of content and performance for ethnic and diversity studies. And the committee will note, Senator Lang proposed the following amendments, which have been captured in the mock-up attached to this work session document. The sponsors' proposed amendments include deleting section 4 concerning cooperative agreements between the superintendent and higher education institutions, removing section 6 regarding the addition of civics to the social studies core academic subject for homeschooled children, and deleting section 7 concerning the establishment of the Pupil Civic Advisory Panel. Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Senator Lang, any information you need to share with us?
Sure. I just want to start first by thanking Sarah Nick and Joyce Woodhouse for helping me pull the final details of this together. I think I should tell you the amendments, why we made those changes. We deleted the cooperative agreements for higher ed because they are already in the NRS and they weren't necessary. We removed section 6, which is about homeschool children, because that's not applicable. And we deleted section 7 about the Pupil Civic Advisory Panel because there is already an advisory panel that we can go into that brings civics. And I just want to remind everybody that civics teaches us about the rights and duties as citizens. And I think that we have seen a lot happen in our country in the past few years. And I just think that I look back to when I was in school and I had civics and how important that was to what I believe today. And I think this will be a really great program for kids. And I'm especially excited about the service project because I think we should always learn how to give back. And I think this will be a great program for kids. And I know the teachers, the teacher I had on during the hearing, he's been doing it a long time and his students have really liked it, and I'm excited about the diverse American perspectives because I think we need to know and appreciate all cultures that are in our society. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Can you address the fiscal notes?
So the Department of Education is going to put a small fiscal note on that because of when the kids go out and do their service learning projects, it's not going to be large. We've already talked to finance, and it's going to be something that we can work out.
Great.
It's more of a reporting thing.
Right. And just a quick question. I didn't look this up, but you just reminded me as you talked about this. On the service project, is there any exemptions if something comes up and they're just not able to get that part of it done?
So they have their whole high school time, so 9th through 12th grade. So they have 4 years to do a service project, and so their teachers will be talking to that starting in 9th grade. So I think it'll be difficult not to get it done because they have such a long time when they can get it done. But I think that would be a conversation between the teacher and the student and or parents and maybe the Department of Education.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, any other questions? Not seeing any.
Chair, I would move that we amend and do pass.
We have a motion from, okay, so we have a motion from Senator Hammond, amend and do pass. Was that a second from Dondero Loop?
It is.
Wait, I heard two people talk, so I didn't hear.
I was jumping in there and Senator Hammond beat me, so I said I'll second it.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you. All right, so I have a motion, a second. Any further discussion on the motion? Okay, let's go to the roll call vote.
Vice Chair Dondero Loop,
Here, I'm sorry, yes.
Senator Hardy,
I'm here too.
Yes.
Senator Hammond,
Yes.
Senator Lang,
Yes.
Senator Buck,
Yes.
Senator Donate,
Yeah.
Chair Dennis.
Yes, and Senator Lang, if you would do the floor statement.
Thank you.
All right, let's go on now to SB 215.
Mr. Chair, Jen Sturm, Committee Policy Analyst. The next bill on work session is Senate Bill 215, which is sponsored by Senator Dennis and heard on March 29th. Senate Bill 215 requires a school district's Board of Trustees and a charter school's governing body or board to develop and present plans for distance education and to share those plans with the school community, families, and school employees. The bill also requires the identification of students and school employees who do not have access to the technology necessary to participate in a distance education program and a plan to make that technology available for those individuals. Furthermore, Senate Bill 215 allows students who demonstrate progress in a distance education course to complete the course in a shorter period of time than normally allowed. The bill also removes certain limitations on instruction programs based on an alternative scheduling.
I just
Finally,
Kristen.
Senate Bill 215 requires a teacher to provide distance education course information to the student and the student's legal guardian. And we have a couple amendments proposed here. The first, Nevada's Department of Education proposed the following amendments to require the plan to provide technology to include communication with families, students, and staff. Revise subsection 6 of section 2 to 1, increase the number of days before the start of the school year in which a school district must share its distance education plan from 20 days to 45 days before the start of the school year. 2, include conforming changes for university schools for profoundly gifted students. And 3, remove subsection D regarding the identification of individuals without the technology necessary for distance education and add distance education plan implementation language. The Department of Education also proposed to revise subsection 1 of section 3 to expand the definition of distance learning to include synchronous and asynchronous learning and the delivery of instruction for geographically separated participants. revise language in subsection 3 of section 3 to say that if a student demonstrates proficiency in a distance education program, that the student may complete the course in a shorter period of time, and include a definition of distance education eligibility. We also received a proposed amendment from the State Public Charter School Authority, which is also attached to this work session document. That proposal would clarify that charter schools seeking to provide a distance education program are required to submit a request to their sponsors to amend their charter contracts. And Mr. Chair, while I've attached the fiscal notes to this work session document, I just wanted to remind the committee members that Clark County School District indicated during the bill hearing that it was withdrawing its fiscal note for this bill.
Thank you. And I suppose we probably wouldn't see that till after it comes out with the amendment, and then they can resubmit that with and they can resubmit with nothing on there. Although we didn't hear from one of the other districts, I think had a small, I think it was Lander County had something on there. So that might get changed also as with the amendments in there. So, okay, any questions? I'm not hearing anyone with questions. What's the pleasure of the?
I'll
Amend.
Amend and do pass.
Yeah.
And I'll second underline.
Thank you.
So have Senator Dondero.
At the beginning.
Yeah. Senator Dondero makes the motion to amend and do pass. Senator Lang seconds. Further discussion on the motion. Okay, let's go to the roll call vote.
Vice Chair Dondero Loop,
Yes.
Senator Hardy,
Yes.
Senator Hammond,
Yes.
Senator Lang,
Yes.
Senator Buck,
Yes.
Senator Donade,
Yes.
Chair Dennis.
Yes, thank you very much. And I'll take the floor statement on that one. Okay, let's go on to Senate Bill 352.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, Jen Sturm, Committee Policy Analyst. The next bill on work session is Senate Bill 352, which was presented by Senator Dennis on April 5th. The bill requires the Commission on Professional Standards in Education to adopt regulations that authorize a currently employed paraprofessional who is enrolled in a program to become a teacher to complete an accelerated student teaching program in the same or similar area in which the person is currently enrolled. The Commission must also adopt regulations that require Nevada's Department of Education to accept student teaching experience completed outside of Nevada if the experience substantially fulfills Nevada's requirements. And Mr. Chair, there were no proposed amendments.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? Not seeing any.
Approve.
Is that Senator Hardy?
Yep.
You made a do pass?
Yes.
Second.
Second, Senator Hammond. Motion is a do pass. Any further discussion on the motion? Okay. We'll do a roll call vote.
Vice Chair Dondero Loop,
Yes.
Senator Hardy,
Yes.
Senator Hammond,
Yes.
Senator Lang,
Yes.
Senator Buck,
Yes.
Senator Donade,
Yes.
Chair Dennis.
Yes, thank you. And I'll take that floor statement. Let's go to SB 353.
Mr. Chair, Jen Sturm for the record. The next bill on work session is Senate Bill 353, which was presented by Senator Dondero Loop on April 2nd. Senate Bill 353 requires Nevada's Department of Education to review examinations and assessments administered pursuant to Chapter 390 of Nevada Revised Statutes for their educational benefit, cost, and redundancy in information, skills, or abilities measured. The bill also requires the Department of Education to adopt regulations prescribing limits on the actual instructional time taken to conduct the assessment and the total number of assessments administered in a school year. And Mr. Chair, there are no proposed amendments at this time.
All right.
Move to approve.
We have Senator Hardy approved. Did anybody, and let me just make sure, anybody have any questions? I'm not seeing any. Okay, I have a motion from Senator Hardy to do pass. Second from Senator Donate. Further discussion on the motion? Okay. Vote.
Vice Chair Dondero Loop,
Yes?
Senator Hardy,
Yes.
Senator Hammond,
Yes.
Senator Lang,
Sorry, yes.
Senator Buck,
Yes.
Senator Donate,
Yes.
Chair Dennis.
Yes, thank you. Okay, and that one, why don't we have Senator Buck? Would you do the statement on that one? The floor statement, yeah.
Sure. Thank you so much, Chair Dennis.
Okay, so let's, our next one is Senate Bill 363.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Jen Sturm, Committee Policy Analyst. Our last bill on work session today is Senate Bill 363, which was presented by Senator Dennis on April 2nd. Senate Bill 363 requires each of Nevada's charter school governing bodies that have a contract with an educational management organization to report to the State Public Charter School Authority the amount paid to the respective management organization. The bill requires the report to be submitted by November 1st of each even-numbered year. And there are a couple amendments for the committee's consideration. Senator Dennis proposed an amendment to require the report to be submitted to the relevant sponsor of the charter school. And Senator Dondero Loop proposed an amendment to require the report to be submitted to the legislature. Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Do we have any questions?
Amend, do pass.
We have a motion to amend and do pass from Senator Hardy,
Second?
second from Dondero Loop. Any further discussion on the motion? Okay, let's do the vote.
Vice Chair Dondero Loop,
Yes?
Senator Hardy,
Yes.
Senator Hammond,
Yes.
Senator Lang,
Yes?
Senator Buck,
Yes.
Senator Donate,
Yes.
Chair Dennis.
Yes, thank you. All right. Senator Hammond, would you do the floor on that one?
Sure.
Thank you. Okay, so we're not going to go to the bill that we're going to hear today, Senate Bill 120, revised provisions relating to school administrators. And I'm going to turn it over to my vice chair. I'm going to try to find my stuff for my presentation.
Thank you very much, Chair Dennis. And with that, We'll open the hearing on Senate Bill 120. And when you are ready, please go ahead.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Madam Vice Chair and committee members. For the record, I'm Mo Dennis, representing Senate District 2. I'm here to present Senate Bill 120 for your consideration. The measure aims to align statutory requirements relating to probationary teachers and administrators by amending certain provisions concerning the evaluation and retention of administrators. I am proposing to amend SB 120 as introduced to address stakeholder concerns related to school climate. And I will discuss the amendment in more detail as we go along. And I'll just insert a comment here. In trying to get to work on this bill during a pandemic, it was the normal way that I would do this to bring people together became difficult. So the original language that I submitted was basically a placeholder to be able to then have some discussion and be able to work out the issues. So what I'm going to be talking about today is the bill with amendments. And some of the things are changed a lot. So hopefully you'll be able to keep up with that. And I also, as we go through, I had a document that has the amendments on there that's available. Under current law, new teachers have a probationary period of 3 years. After that time, if a post-probationary teacher receives 2 evaluations with performance ratings of developing or ineffective, the teacher is placed back on probationary status. Under current law, there are no conditions under which a principal would revert to probationary status after the initial year. This submission fails to recognize that there are administrators who may not be effective in managing their schools and should be placed under probationary status in certain circumstances. The purpose of SB 120 is to recognize that school climate is the responsibility of the leader of a school, and principals need to be held accountable if the climate at a school is causing teacher turnover. The accountability measures we place on teachers should be extended to principals. And as we know, I mean, the leader of the school is what's going to determine if the teachers will be able to fulfill and do the best that they can in the school, and if kids are going to achieve. So, Madam Vice Chair, at this time, I'm going to go through each section of SB 20 and mention the amendment as I go along. And I'm going to try to follow with my own notes. So, Section 2 makes principals at will for the first 3 years of employment, which is in line with the requirements for teachers. The section also outlines provisions concerning principals who are reassigned. Additionally, as the bill currently reads, after those 3 years, a principal may be placed back on at-will status if the school's rating is reduced and at least one half of the teachers request a transfer from the school in each of the 2 consecutive years. This is one of the sections of the bill I'm proposing to amend by sharpening the focus on school climate. The amendment proposes to remove paragraph A of subsection 2 regarding school ratings. So the ratings piece would be removed. However, if at least one half of the teachers request a transfer in one school year, the bill would still require the school district to conduct a climate survey to determine the reasons why staff members are requesting to relocate. The amendment would add that if the survey results reveal that the climate is an issue at the school, the principal is required to undergo professional development training. So in that first year, if 50% of the staff transfers, and then a survey would be done, and if it's a climate issue, then the professional development training would occur. In the year immediately following a year in which at least 50% transfer, if 40% or more teachers request a transfer due to the school climate issues, the principal will become employed at will and is subject to immediate dismissal. For school climate, the intent generally is to use the existing definition in Nevada revised statutes as a base and expand on the elements related to employment. So let me just reiterate. First year, 50% transfer, they do a climate survey. If it's a climate issue, they do training related to professional development related to climate. So then if in the second year, an additional 40% request transfer and it's due to climate issues, then the principal would become at will and is subject to immediate dismissal, but it's not required. That would be up to the school board. Finally, the amendment would create an exception from the post-probationary at-will employment status and teacher survey provisions for principals who have been at an underperforming school as part of a school district program or who have received an incentive to relocate to such a school. The amendment would require principals placed at underperforming schools pursuant to a school district program or who receive an incentive to relocate to such a place to take school climate training within the first year at the school. So what I previously talked about, that would not, going into that will status and the 50% and the 40% wouldn't occur if they are going to an underperforming school, and they have an agreement with the district. So in some cases, a district may create a plan, let's say in 5 years, that they're going to bring this underperforming school up. So they would come to an agreement between the principal and the district. So if that were the case, then this other stuff would not impact that. Or if they were doing some kind of incentive to get folks. The reason I brought that incentive, and I probably should back up a little bit. These amendments that I've put in are because of discussions that I've had with various stakeholders, whether it's principals, whether it's teachers, whether it's the Department of Ed, whether it's school districts, even associations. I've listened to the issues, and I've seen a lot of talked to principals and gotten emails from some principals that were concerned that we wouldn't be able to attract principals to underperforming schools. And so I want to make sure that we had a way to incentivize principals to still go to those underperforming schools, but that they have a plan in place to be able to be successful. Moving on then, in section 3, Senate Bill 120 requires certain administrators in post-probationary status to apply for reappointment every 5 years. If not reappointed, the administrator is entitled to be reassigned to the position from which the administrator was promoted. So this is for, this isn't for principals. This is for folks that, like an associate superintendent or a supervisor. These are all positions that are above that of a principal that work in the district, that once every 5 years, they would be required to reapply. What that does is it allows the opportunity to reassess whether the type of function that individual is doing. If they're still doing great, then they continue on. If not, it gives an opportunity to make a change. They still would have the opportunity to go back to whatever the previous employment was, the previous position that they had within the district. Sections 4 through 10 make conforming changes throughout the other sections of NRS. To address one more stakeholder concern regarding professional development, I am proposing to amend Senate Bill 120 to require each school district to develop a plan for professional development for school-based and district administrators each year and submit the plan to the Nevada Department of Education. These professional development plans will be reviewed and approved by the department. Additionally, the districts will be required to report on the professional development training conducted annually. So I brought that one as a discussion because one of the big challenges is if you're assigned to be a principal and you have a supervisor that's over you, and sometimes they don't have a lot of supervisors and maybe they're not able to get to you all the time. It would be unfair to ask somebody to be successful and then not provide the tools for that principal to be able to be successful. And so we require teachers to be able to submit what they're doing. This would require the districts to submit to the department what kind of training are they doing for their principals and for their other educational leaders? And so that's where that came from. And finally, and the final amendment I'd like to offer today is regarding principal to supervisor ratios. The amendment would request that school districts include non-binding principal to supervisor ratios in the professional development plan submitted to NDE. So that was just so that I looked at that issue, and there's some national standards. I also looked at maybe having the department create those, but you know, there's also an issue there that just by saying we're going to do something, they can't just always do it because there may not be the funds to be able to put them there. But as part of their plans, I wanted them to be able to think about, so what would those ratios, you know, what can those be for our district as they submit those plans? And I realized that, you know, brand new teachers that maybe are in an underperforming school might need more in-service and training than someone who's at a different school that maybe doesn't have as many challenges, and maybe they don't need to be supervised as much. And so those kind of things could be part of their plan. So Madam Vice Chair, members of the committee, thank you for your attention and consideration of SB 120. As I mentioned, I tried to work with all the different stakeholders to see if we could find, this is what I would have done had we been able to do what I normally do in the interim, to be able to bring people together to come up with a bill. And so with that, I appreciate the opportunity to talk about this important issue. I will tell you, being married to a teacher and the father of a teacher, I hear all the time the great things that they get from their principals. And I also hear great things from other folks that have had perhaps leaders that weren't that helpful to them. And sometimes we do have situations where someone's in a position that perhaps they could do better doing in a different position. And so we want to make sure, because this is important to teachers, this is important to students, to have a climate in their school where they can achieve, where they can learn. And I know that we've had different instances where we've got great principals and we've got other principals that need help. And some principals just need some professional development. And I think that this provides the opportunity to have those different pieces in place so that all of our principals can be successful. This isn't about punishing principals, it's about trying to help principals be better, and also putting them on the same, you know, we want our teachers to be better, and we've put some things in place to help our teachers. This will help bring that in line with what we do for teachers to do the same thing for our principals and other leaders. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Senator Dennis. Do you have any additional presenters, or would you like me to go right to questions?
No, I think we could go to questions. There are other people on that probably, if we get, you know, if we have questions of like the department or the districts.
Perfect. All right. Thank you. Committee questions. Senator Lang.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Senator Dennis, I know that you explained this to me, but I'm still confused. So would you mind re-explaining Section 3 about applying every 5 years and how that works and who that is?
Yeah, so Section 3, it talks about those, as it says, let's see, let me find it. Oh, let me make sure I'm muted, unmuted. Let's see. Oh, Section 3. You're talking about Section 3, right?
Yes.
Okay. It's where it talks about each probationary administrator employed by a district except a principal, assistant principal, or other school administrator, school district administrator, or central office administrator below the rank of superintendent, associate superintendent, or assistant superintendent. So it tells you who it doesn't apply to, and then it says below the rank of superintendent, associate superintendent, assistant superintendent, who may be members of a separate bargaining unit pursuant, must apply to the superintendent for reappointment to his or her administrative position every 5 years. We also have.
Just give me an example.
So like like an associate superintendent.
Okay,
Or it could be a supervisor that supervises principals.
so they had been on evaluation, or I mean on their post probationary, that person, or no?
Yeah, so they could be post probation. They also, they also would be on probation when they in their position. But this only impacts those individuals. This doesn't impact principals.
But it doesn't impact people that aren't on probation, correct?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so if you had people that were
No, actually, I should say that
okay.
it's talking about each post probationary administrator employed by so they're already past probation because they're in some leadership position.
So do they only have to reapply once in one 5-year period, or every 5 years forever?
Every 5 years.
Forever?
Yes.
Even after they're off probation?
Well, they're already off probation when this starts.
Okay.
And I don't know. I don't know the legal part of this, but I know we have Mr. Killian on here. He might be able to expand on the legal part of how that works.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Asher Killian, Committee Counsel. I believe you described it accurately. The idea here is that these are post-probationary administrators, so they've already served that initial probationary period and they're no longer at-will employees. But these particular post-probationary administrators, so the associate or assistant superintendents, every 5 years would have to reapply to continue to hold the position they currently hold. It wouldn't necessarily be a reapplication for employment. They could remain employed with the district regardless of this, but they would have to reapply for the position they currently hold at least once every 5 years.
So, thank you. So Chair Dennis, I'm just uncomfortable with that. I don't know why. I just think that once you're on probation and you've done the things to get off probation, I don't think you remain on probation forever and have to reapply, right? Because you've taken the steps to get better.
Right.
So I would encourage you maybe to take a look at that again. And the other thing is that I think the in-service, I'm excited about the in-service part because like we talked earlier today, and I'm just going to repeat it because I would like it to be on the record, but when teachers have to go back to school to move on the salary schedule and they take great classes and they get excited to go back in their classrooms and teach those exciting things they learned when they went to these classes, principals in our school district and administrators too don't have any in-service, and so they don't have anything to re-energize their battery. So I think it's really important that the school districts, all school districts, do in-service for their administrators. It keeps them up to date on kind of the latest trends in education and what's happening, and they get new ideas. And there is something about being together with your colleagues and talking about what's happening in your schools and those kinds of things. So I think that's a really important piece of this legislation. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Senator Buck.
Thank you, Vice Chair Dondera Loop. I'm with and Chair Dennis, just a couple questions. I'm with Senator Lang on section 3, because if you read it, it says anyone below the rank of superintendent, associate superintendent, or assistant superintendent, which would basically mean directors and coordinators, only directors and coordinators. Is that correct? Am I reading that correct?
Actually, I think Mr. Killian, I know we had this discussion. Can you opine on that?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Asher Killian, Committee Counsel. So if you look at the structure of the beginning of the sentence, it's actually the opposite. So it applies to all post-probationary administrators except for this list of people. So it would apply, it would not apply to principals, assistant principals, or district or central office administrators below that rank. So who would be left would be the people at or above that rank. So it would apply to the superintendents, associate superintendents, and assistant superintendents.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Senator Donate, did I see your hand up? Please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Vice Chair Dondero-Loop. Quick question for Chair Dennis and the bill sponsors. Have you heard of any issues that may arise on behalf of administrators of color? For instance, does your amendment address any like racial biases that may arise from against these administrators? So my reasoning for this is that, you know, administrators of color already face a tough fight moving up the ladder. And I'm worried that racial prejudice may arise from teachers when conducting the climate survey, especially when we know that teachers are predominantly white. So in essence, does your amendment address that, or has this point been brought up to you before?
It hasn't, actually. I have not heard that come up. And I don't know that this addresses that. I mean, I think there's plenty of other employment law that would apply in this case, but we never talked about this issue, and nobody's actually brought it up. So,
thank you, sir.
I'm going to jump in here real quick and tandem off what Senator Donate said, because I can think of one particular school that had administrators of color, and the minute they were helping over there, they got pulled to do other assignments because they were successful. So we kept losing people for what I would consider even a good reason. But we do need to be cognizant of that. Additional. So not seeing any hands right now, I'd love to jump in here for just a minute. I want to go back to what Senator Lang was asking about with the 5 years. One of my concerns is with the 5 years, because these are traditionally administrators underneath a superintendent, you could have several scenarios happen. So one could be that you have a superintendent there 5 years, and when the new superintendent comes in, they all need to reapply, and therefore the new superintendent gets rid of everybody. You also could have a superintendent in there for 3 years, and when that person leaves, then they wait 2 more years. You see the hamster wheel we're in here, because we've got people in our school district that are very good administrators, and we are very, very lucky to have those people at the top. And I think we're asking them to apply for a job that they're doing well at. If you're in the private sector, you don't get asked to apply for a job every 5 years that you're getting good evaluations for. So I would just put that on the record and have you think about that a little bit. I would also ask if the focus of this bill is to address those climate issues in schools, then why are those central office administrators on the 5-year rotation? Now, you might want to answer that by saying, well, because they're supervising the people at the schools. Well, I hope it doesn't take us 5 years to figure out that we have a problem there. So, and I've got a whole barrage of questions, of clarifying questions. And the other thing I would say is that I've worked for a whole lot of principals in my life. And at one school that I was at, I had 6 different principals in 15 years. And it wasn't because they were bad. It was because they were good.
Right.
And so now you have that problem. So what happens when you have a low performing school and you take the principal out of there and you have teachers that aren't happy, and you put you would like to put a high performing principal in there, but who wants to go in there? Because if you don't succeed or they don't like you, you're out. So I am all about accountability. I think anybody that knows me knows that I am. I absolutely think we should have accountability. But I know we've moved principals in the last 2 years. And I know that there's other principals we haven't moved. So I just feel like the professional development piece is awesome. I think it's great. But I just think that applying for your job every 5 years tells me it doesn't matter what kind of a job I do, because I've got to reapply every 5 years. And teachers transfer in and out of schools for lots of different reasons, As I told you, I've worked for a lot of different principals over my time. But if a teacher is transferring because of poor leadership or poor climate, and there's a whole host of them, then I think you correct that at the supervisory level. If they're not taking care of that at the supervisory level, that's a different level. And the other thing I would ask is and you probably don't need to answer this, but I would suggest that in all of our school districts, well, we have, 370 schools, right, ish, in Clark County. And then we have 16 other counties that have all those other schools. So in all the schools in Nevada, how many principals are we talking about? And how many schools are we talking about? And so it may be that we can fix the problem differently. I don't know. And the last thing that I would say, because I want to give our other community members some time, I noticed when you were talking about sections, I think it was 4 through 10, on page 5, section 6, I've noticed that in excluding the provisions of 391.730, the provisions of inclusive do not apply to a teacher, but then they've crossed out administrator. So I was wondering if you could address why the administrator is crossed out there.
Yeah, so that one, I will let Mr. Killian address that issue, and then I'll address the other issues.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair and Mr. Chair. So that was a technical change, since the provisions of sections 2 and 3 of the bill effectively give different rules for administrators. That's meant to accommodate that those sections provide a different rule for administrators than was originally included and applies to teachers here.
Okay, I think I've got to wrap my head around that one for just a minute. Because, and I've told other people this as well, and I do feel strongly about this. All of our administrators were teachers, and then teachers become deans or vice principals or directors of departments or whatever they become. They may become principals and then go be directors. There's lots of avenues for people in our school systems, and I just think, and if somebody is highly ineffective or is a problem or does something illegal, I absolutely think that we should take care of that. I'm not questioning that at all, but I am questioning that we're going to be giving people an uncomfortable 5-year span of I'm doing a really great job and I still have to reapply for my job. And also I've moved to a school and my staff doesn't like that I'm asking them to work. I don't know. Maybe they didn't have to work that hard under the other principal, and I'm telling them, you know what, we've got kids in front of us and I want everybody on task. So I'm just really uncomfortable with some of this, and I guess I just need some more time to process it, because I just found out literally last night that this was on the session today on our agenda, and I just saw the proposed amendment like at 11 o'clock. So I guess I just have some more questions to answer. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I will say that, I think we're all saying the same thing. We want effective leaders for our kids. This bill does not, if you've got the situation where people, if it's a climate issue, it's one thing, but if it's not a climate issue, there are many reasons that teachers would transfer. I mean, you build a brand new school next to one, and many want to be in a new classroom, so they'll transfer. But you know, this gives an opportunity, not only if 50% transfer in the first year, to get some training on climate, because it has to be climate related. And then in the second year, if you lose an additional 40%, that's almost 90% of your staff that you lost. I could get that some people might not be happy with new leadership, but to lose 90% in a school, I don't know that would happen very often, because I don't know that I've heard of any schools that probably has happened in. But if you got to that point, then there probably, you know, there needs to be some changes made in that particular case. And while you mentioned that, you know, out of all the schools, what does this apply to? And I don't think of it as schools. I think of it as students. How many students is this impacting? Because if it impacts the teachers, it impacts the students. So we could be talking thousands of students that are being impacted by an ineffective leader. And like you said, the vast majority of them are going to be effective. So this doesn't apply to them. And I will say that I have gotten emails from principals that aren't afraid of this issue because they want to go to these low performing schools. They know that they could be successful there, and they, you know, so this doesn't deter them from that. So I have received that.
Thank you very much. Senator Buck, please.
Thank you, Vice Chair Dondero-Loop. I have to agree with you on all points. So if a teacher requests a transfer, that doesn't necessarily mean I've been a building leader and it was a change organization. So went in, it was low performing, and I would have been probably removed after 2 years on this bill because inevitably, it's to Vice Chair Marilyn Dondero-Loop's point in that, in order to make change, people have to work and align to a vision. So it could be teachers could leave because of coaching positions, because they're going to want to go to middle school and teach the same subject every day, or different for the different periods in middle school, closer to home. So there's many different reasons. And what I'm wondering is if this survey is going to actually vet out reasons, or, you can oftentimes create a culture where it only takes 2% of employees to rally and to get a principal out. That has all good intentions. So I just wondered about the survey.
So what I can say, the Senator Dennis, for the record, what I can say about the survey is my understanding that there's already a survey. This doesn't create a survey. So there's some kind of a school climate survey that's already being used. I'm proposing to just to add a couple things on there when it comes to the teachers. But generally, there's a survey that already addresses the school climate.
If I may, Vice Chair Dondero-Loop.
Please go ahead.
So I'm just wondering, are you going to do an exit survey to find out why they're leaving? Because if they're leaving to get a promotion or a different job or teach a different grade level, or because a friend of theirs just became a principal, or to be closer to home, I would sure want that vetted out. Yeah,
and I would also, because the reason for the survey is to find out, what. I mean, you're surveying because you want to find out why. And as I mentioned, there's a million reasons, legitimate reasons to transfer, because, like you said, closer to home, could be a brand new school next door, so that wouldn't apply if those kinds of things are going on. It's the climate in the school building itself. And like you said, there's going to be some that aren't happy. Right, when you have a new leader come in, there's always going to be some that have a different philosophy, right? And they're going to want to go to a school that has the philosophy that they subscribe to. So that I mean, that's different. But when you have a situation where I know of at least, you know, 1 or 2 schools in my district where you had a principal that made life so miserable for everybody that, I mean, people just want to leave because they couldn't even teach anymore because they were so upset what was going on. And these were, you know, these are teachers that were very successful teachers. So this wasn't somebody that just wanted to keep doing things the way they did and didn't want to change. You know, they were successful teachers that just had a hard time, and because they were just being berated and, you know, those kinds of things. And that's the kind of thing that the survey would, you know, we would want to find out, is how does the principal work with, you know, with the teachers and making sure that it's a good environment for both the teachers and the students.
And just one more. So, Vice Chair Dondera-Loop, I'm just wondering, where are the principal supervisors in this? Because I know when I was a principal supervisor, it was a lot of coaching up the principal if that needed to happen, or, you know, why aren't they part of this process in this bill? Or if teachers are having issues, that they're not a sounding board so that principal supervisor that should be able to provide the due process, or the principal, why aren't they more heavily involved in this?
So I did look at that issue, and I agree with you that that's how the principals are going to get, if they have that supervisor, supposed to be providing that training to them. That's why I added the issue of the ratios. I didn't put up that the district, in coming up with their plans for development, for the administrative development, they have to come up with, you know, ratios and or at least look at how those work. Because I think, you know, when you have, I think Clark County is like at 1 to 30 something, 1 to 31, I think it is, principal supervisor to principal, and like Washoe is like 1 to 20, I think. So the larger that number is, the you know, less time you have to be able to go and visit with principals. So I think as they develop their plans, they need to take that into consideration, especially in a school that's low performing. They probably need to be a lot more supervised, or at least have access to their supervisors more often. And so that's where that piece came in. The districts already have their own plans also on how they do their supervision of principals, and so that I didn't want to change however they're doing that. The concern is obviously in the ratios, and that's a financial issue, right? Because if you're going to add more supervisors, then you got to have more money to pay people, and you have to have people to be able to do that. So it is a concern.
Thank you very much, Senator Buck. Additional questions, Senator Lang, please.
Thank you. So Chair Dennis, I think to follow up on that, when you said the ratio, a light just went off in my head. That's the exact problem. You cannot have one person supervising 30 principals. You just can't. And something's got to change in that. And I understand it's hiring more people, but I mean, I don't know that we can legislate that. Maybe we can, I don't know, but I think that some serious conversation needs to happen with the school district, because that's unconscionable that we would have one administrator with 30 people. And that's thinking that everybody's doing everything good. If you have 3 people in there that are having trouble, now it's even worse, right? And so I think that I don't know if there's anything you can do in your legislation, and I understand it's a fiscal note to the school districts, but I mean, and everyone always complains that the school districts have too many administrators, but I think there's a give and take there, and I don't know, maybe they have other people that are administrators that they could put out in the field to supervise as well. But I think there's something that needs to happen with that, and it's very troubling to me.
Well, and the reason we've got the professional development piece in there where they have to report to the department, that gives them the opportunity to look at that issue. I think that, you know, as we move forward, by knowing those kinds of issues, I think that would help also the legislature if we're going to try to provide some kind of solution. You know, the solution is obviously a fiscal issue, and we don't have enough teachers as it is, let alone supervisors. And but that's a different issue to tackle.
Well, and it's almost like I could equate it to a class size issue, right?
Right.
You know, we're saying lower class size, and here we have 1 to 30. I mean,
Right.
it just makes sense. So, you know, I'd like our school district to get out at the bottom and move to the top. And I think we're going to have to make some serious changes.
Well, and that one of the reasons that we did it is to created a new funding formula so that we've got funding going to where, you know, for the student and what those special needs are. So there's going to be extra funds in these low performing schools are going to get additional funds to help them so that they can get additional help. So.
Thank you, Senator Lang. So I have a couple more thoughts as well, because I thought this was already in the NRS. I already thought that we had some overarching things, because above principals are usually at will anyway. And so some of those people, if they don't do their job, or if a principal doesn't, I mean, like I said, I can name several people I know that have left principal positions and they're in other positions now, or somebody that's, say, a director or a higher end position, and they're, you know, they'll request a transfer, or someone will ask them to move to a different position. But I just was wondering, I thought this was already in the NRS. I thought we already had this established. So I wasn't sure why the other piece of this bill. So if you could address that for me.
You're talking about the 5-year?
Yes, and the at-will piece.
Yeah, so the 5-year, my understanding was that that they are that some people get put in those positions and that they don't have that. That's why we put it in there, that they don't have that, or they could basically just stay in there forever. And if there's an issue that we needed to put some kind of mechanism in there for that. So I would have to, as far as the NRS, I don't have that. I'd have to do some research.
Okay. And then the other thing is I thought of sort of the opposite piece, where you could have a school where everybody gets along, everybody is going along, and but they're really not doing what they're supposed to do. In other words, they need some additional push and some more effective strategies for kids, but nobody's unhappy.
Right. Yeah.
So how do you fix that? Because people aren't leaving. People aren't going to leave.
Yeah. So in that case, what you have, that's where the supervisor, you know, definitely is going to be tracking the achievement of the students. You know, one of with the switch to the new student-centered funding plan, that is going to help, because there's going to be accountability that has to go along with that. And so they have to show that they're improving. So, I mean, that's already part of a principal's responsibilities to improve student achievement. And in that scenario that you're talking about, they would have to show improvement. Everybody might be happy, but, you know, if they're not improving, then that's a different issue that needs to be resolved.
Additional questions from the committee? Senator Buck, please go ahead.
Just one more comment. I would add back into section 6, administrator, the word administrator. It just seems like you're unfairly singling out one bargaining group.
Mr. Killian, does that, I thought he addressed that earlier, why we had to take that out, because this is referring to a different section that no longer would apply, was my understanding. But
thank you, Madam Vice Chair, Mr. Chair, Asher Killian, Committee Counsel for the record. So the change being made to Section 6, the existing provision of NRS in Section 6, NRS 391-660, it effectively allows a collective bargaining agreement to have a different rule than the rule set forth in NRS. Because the provisions of sections 2 and 3 for administrators are intended to govern regardless of collective bargaining agreement. That's why the reference to section 2 and 3 is added to that section and the reference to administrators is deleted. If the change to section 6 were reverted, the net effect of that change would be that just like many of the provisions relating to teachers, the provisions of sections 2 and 3 could be negotiated around and overruled by a collective bargaining agreement.
Thank you. Senator Buck, is that it?
Yes, thank you, Vice Chair.
Thank you very much. Well, seeing no more questions, I guess I would just end with that at the current ratio, you know, principals aren't being, and I don't mean that they need constant supervision, but in all fairness, they're not being supervised because at the current ratio, we only have 3 regions. And then under those 3 regions, we have other directors that are all going to have to apply for their jobs. So all those people, it seems to me there's just not enough supervision over the principals, and then the principal supervisors have to have the tools to remove ineffective principals, but don't have the time to do it. So, because we all have a war story about somebody, but I'm just not sure that the principal is always the scapegoat here. So I think that, you know, we need to think about the different parts, because I always go back to these people were teachers. You know, all coaches that were assistant coaches aren't great coaches. And so it's the same with teachers. Sometimes you can be an amazing teacher, but not necessarily an amazing principal, and vice versa. So with all the strategies and all the issues going on right now, I would think that what we would want to do is coach that person maybe out of that job or up to take care of that job, and not just get rid of the person all the time. So with that being said, Senator Dennis, would you like to go to support, opposition, neutral? Would you like to make more comments?
Yes, and just a quick comment. I agree with you. This bill is not about, for me, it's not about getting rid of, it's helping those that are there become better, because at the end of the day, we want kids to achieve. We want teachers to be able to teach them. And so that's really what this is about. So with that, I think we're ready for testimony. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So with that, we'll go to support broadcasting. If you would help us queue up the callers. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. To testify in support on SB 120, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Once again, if you'd like to testify in support on SB 120, please press *9 now. Caller with the last 3 digits, 854, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Hello, thank you, Chair Dennis and other committee members. This is Matt Niswonger, teacher in Clark County School District, NIGHSWONGER. Like I said, I'm a teacher and coach in the Clark County School District. I'd like to encourage you to pass SB 120. I know the positive impact that a good teacher and coach can have in a child's life. I also know how important good leadership at the school level is in allowing a teacher to be an effective educator. School leadership sets the tone at a school. The tone set by the leadership can make or break a school. Good leadership allows the educators of the school to build a positive environment for all the students of the school. Poor leadership forces educators to constantly fight against the administration in an attempt to do what is best for our students. The influence exerted by our school-based administration too often goes unchecked. Administrators are allowed to act with impunity. Often this untethered power leads to an environment that is not conducive conducive to a positive learning environment. When an educator ends up with a bad administrator, he or she has very few choices. Often the only way out of a bad situation is to leave a school. We as teachers don't have the tools available to us to fight against a bad administrator. Without any accountability for the administrators at the school level, the district continues to suffer. Educators at a school create a positive environment for the students only to have it upended by the constant shuffle of school administrators throughout the school district who are often more worried about a promotion than doing what is best for our kids. We have great teachers leaving schools on a regular basis because of negative working environments established by poor leadership at the school administration level. This can only change with laws that hold administrators accountable. Right now, administrators at the school level have unlimited power. A good teacher in front of students is a big part of a proper education for our students. A good administrator is another part of creating a positive learning environment for our students, but one that is so often overlooked. This has to change. In order to help facilitate a better learning environment for Nevada students, we need to begin holding administrators accountable for the negative environments they often create at our schools. None of this can happen without passage of SB 120. Okay, thank you very much, committee members.
Next caller, please.
Caller with the last three digits, 754, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Good afternoon, Belinda Kimes with the CCEA. Thank you, senators. Dear senators, my name is Belinda Kimes and I have been a school counselor for 7 years. I come before you in good faith that you care about the condition of our educational system and that my voice matters to you, not just as a constituent, but as a parent, an educator, and simply as a fellow human being. My voice, among many others, matters. I support SB 120 and believe that the accountability it demands is vital to quality education and quality of life. I'm blessed to have a principal who values school counselors and the impact we make on students' academics and emotional health. Personally, I can tell he respects my ideas and perspectives, my character, and my well-being. Even when we don't see eye to eye, I yet feel secure in our professional relationship and know my position is safe under his leadership. This was not so with the principal at my last school. Each year, I felt the morale of our school vastly decline. Each year, I'd witnessed an exodus of teachers and administrators. I didn't fully understand why this was happening until my fateful turn came. I had learned about contractual rights school counselors have and sought for those rights to be acknowledged. The principal reacted by demoting me from the lead counseling position. When a union rep met with us to confirm these rights, the principal drafted surplus paperwork within days. I did not have a discipline record, and I just received a positive evaluation days prior. I was punished for standing up for counselors' rights. What happened to me caused undue stress, feelings of uncertainty, and hurt. No one should endure what I went through or be afraid to speak up for fear of unjust punishment from their leader. SB 120 can help protect educators from the harm of poor leadership. We need upstanding principals to support educators who are a lifeline for our children. SB 120 will help ensure that principals live up to the honorable standards our educational community so desperately needs. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I would remind all callers, please limit your comments to 2 minutes. I'll let you know when your 2 minutes are up. We have several people on the line and we need to get through this so that we can get to the next meetings. Thank you. Next caller, please.
Caller with the last three digits, 013, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Greetings. For the record, my name is Vinny Tarquinio, VINNY-TARQUINIO, and I am reading on behalf of a frontline educator that is currently working with our students. Hello, Chairman Dennis and members of the committee. My name is Liza Moore, and I am an art specialist at Harvey Dondero Elementary School. I have taught in CCSD for 13 years. I encourage you to pass SB 120. While I currently have a wonderful leadership, I have experienced in my career a new principal taking over a previous school I had taught and creating major change. I actually quit teaching for 2 years right after the new principal took over. At that time, I said it was simply to raise my young child. However, I can say that if I had a leader who understood the needs of teachers, especially teachers with families, I would have stayed. At the same time, every young mother in the school left. Some left to even go out of state. The principal at the new school was new to the position, and I wish she had received mentoring and been held more accountable for everyone's sake. Our rating dropped significantly. All of the after-school activities and family nights were canceled so students could simply focus on test scores. The entire site's morale dropped. If CCSD wants to retain teachers, holding administration is necessary now more than ever. As teachers face the demands of working through this pandemic, the constant changes of how to teach during this time, and the struggles of reaching our students, teacher burnout is at an all-time high, and ineffective administration can add to the stress teachers are handling. I urge you to pass this legislation. Vote yes on SB 120. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next caller, please.
Caller with the last three digits, 338. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
My name is Joanna Miller, Joannamiller. I'm with the Clark County Education Association, and I am reading testimony on behalf of a frontline educator who is currently working with our students. Hello, Chair Dennis and members of the committee. My name is Megan Glimp, and I have worked as a classroom teacher for CCSD for 17 years. I strongly encourage you to pass Senate Bill 120. This bill is important because it holds principals accountable for their actions and leadership within a school. A good leader knows how to treat those they are leading, and this is especially important at an elementary school. Teachers cannot be their best or teach their best if they are under constant stress from an ineffective administration. And in turn, if teachers are not at their best because of stress from administration, then students are not learning at their highest level. Ineffective leadership that I've seen at the elementary level includes, but are not limited to, favoritism, bullying, and micromanaging. I myself, over the 17 years, have been a target of such actions by administrators. In the end, these administrators have only been moved to another school only to repeat their leadership style there and ruin another school. Teachers are held at a high standard and students are held at a high standard. Administrators should also be held at that same high standard. If we are going to improve retention and school climate in CCSD, SB 120 needs to be passed. Thank you.
Thank you. And I would remind you, if you have the same comments or similar comments and agree with the person before you, you are welcome to say ditto. Thank you. Next caller, please.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Caller with the last three digits, 023. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Good afternoon, Chair Dennis and Vice Chair Dondero Loop. My name is Brenda Pearson. I am here representing the Clark County Education Association, BRENDA, PEARSON. CCEA is in strong support of Senate Bill 120 with Senator Dennis's proposed amendments. Teacher turnover occurs when teachers move from one school to another, a process well known in CCSD. Teachers leave schools for many reasons, including school leadership. National research shows that when a school experiences a high degree of turnover, student achievement suffers. CCEA analyzed teacher turnover rates and student proficiency in all 291 elementary and middle schools in CCSD and found that teacher turnover is negatively correlated to student achievement. In other words, when teacher turnover increased, student proficiency in both math and English language arts decreased. School climate can affect staff morale, which in turn can directly affect student outcomes. Experiences show that principals who create bad morale cause high staff turnover. High staff turnover creates instability in the teachers' lessons and students' education and inadvertently affects student proficiency. In the past 2 years, CCSD has had over 17 schools where a bad principal and bad school climate caused an exodus of teachers. Let's look at the number of students that were affected by our poor school climate and turnover during that same time. 16,396 students were impacted. In a number of those cases, parents demanded the removal of the principal from the school for the same reasons the teachers were leaving. Many of those schools saw a decline in student proficiency. Senate Bill 120 is about our community, families, educators, and administrators, and aims to put our students first. It is about putting processes in place to ensure that our school system is doing all we can to make sure our students receive a high-quality education they deserve. For those reasons, CCEA is in support of Senate Bill 120 and thanks Senator Dennis for bringing this bill forth.
Next caller, please.
Caller with the last three digits, 001. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Marie Nisus, Marieneses. I'm the president of the Clark County Education Association. Good afternoon, Chair Dennis and committee members. In 2019, legislation was passed that removed key accountability provisions regarding school administrators. Administrators play a vital role in the success of educators, students, staff, and community in general. Administrators are the instructional leaders of a school. Educators and staff should be able to look to administrators for guidance, mentorship, and opportunities to collaborate to put our students' academic achievement first. However, since a change in the law in 2019, we have seen that that is not the case across the district. Instead of holding our administrators to the highest professional standards, they have a one-year probationary period due to the law change. That is in contrast to teachers who have 3 years probation, and then if they go 2 years in a row with an unsatisfactory evaluation, they are placed back on probation. Schools with poor school climate leave educators in situations that cause them to leave, and as a result, student achievement suffers because of a high staff turnover. The 2019-2020 school year saw over 17 schools where the school climate was so bad because of an ineffective administrator that most educators transferred out of the buildings. Half of these schools ended up in the press because parents objected to these ineffective administrators' tactics. Due to the rollback in the administrative accountability in the 2019 legislative session, there were no incentives to address school climate issues which negatively impacted student achievement. Retaining educators has always been an enormous issue for CCSD, and ineffective administrators can cause educator turnover. Administrators who engage in effective leadership have nothing to worry about. Just like educators are held accountable, administrators should also be held accountable. SB 120 aims to address the lack of professional development that administrators are given and provide an incentive to take every opportunity to become the best leaders they can be. CCEA agrees that administrators should be provided professional development geared towards improving their leadership skills to ensure they can be successful and effective in leading their school. However, we also believe that administrators should be held to the same standards as educators across the state, with similar probationary periods and requirements to ensure that their teachers are not leaving in large majorities over school climate issues because the students in Nevada cannot afford to lose more educators. Retaining educators has always been, it is time for us to clean up statute and devise a process that gives everyone notice as to what is expected to ensure that we put the students of Nevada first. Please vote yes on Senate Bill 120. Thank you, Chair Dennis, for bringing this bill forward.
Thank you very much, and I'll remind you of the 2-minute time limit, please. Thank you. Next caller, please.
Caller with the last 3 digits, 205. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes, and you may begin.
Good afternoon, Chairman Dennis and members of the committee. My name is Jessica Jones for the record, JESSICA-JONES. I'm a kindergarten teacher at a Title I school on the east side of Las Vegas. I'm here today speaking as an individual testifying in support of SB 120, specifically Section 2, which relates to 50% or more of staff requesting a transfer to another school. So when 50% or more of staff leave multiple years at a school, there needs to be a deeper look taken at the leadership and the climate in that school. In 2017, I worked at a different Title I school on the east side. My administrator that year created a toxic work environment for the staff. That year, half of the staff transferred and some early retired. One incident that I experienced personally occurred when he confronted me in the hallway while walking with my students to art. He began to raise his voice and threatened that he would make it so I could never transfer and leave the school. That he changed my evaluation to unsatisfactory and that he would do everything in his power to me. This all occurred in front of my students. They were 8. He still works there. He had no accountability for what he did to the staff. Sadly, incidents like mine occur more often than they should. When you see principals losing staff for consecutive years, there may be an issue happening within the school climate. One of the things we must have in place is for administrators to have proper training and support to make them more effective leaders. Too often in education, we're prepared to just punish people who are struggling instead of offering assistance to make them better. However, if those supports are there and they've gotten assistance and they're unable to perform well, they might just, they need to go. We need to have mechanisms in place to hold them accountable, just like we have mechanisms in place to hold educators accountable. Accountability for all district personnel, including administrators, is key for transparency and effectiveness. I ask that you support SB 120. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Next caller, please.
Caller with the last 3 digits, 005. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Greetings. My name is Christopher DiPaolo, Kristofer
DIPAOLO. I'm with the Clark County Education Association and reading on behalf of a frontline educator currently working with our students. Hello, Chairman Dennis and members of the committee. My name is Kelsey Henderson. I'm a 5th grade teacher at Walter V. Long Elementary School in Las Vegas. I strongly encourage you to pass SB 120. School leadership, whether effective or ineffective, has a direct impact on student performance. When I was a first-year teacher, I taught at a school with a highly ineffective administrator. The unprofessional and disrespectful treatment teachers were forced to endure under this administrator led to more than half the staff, myself included, to leave the school to teach elsewhere. High teacher turnover and that lack of consistency has proven negative effects on children and their academic performance. This was not a one-time event for this administrator. This was a pattern of high teacher turnover. This administrator moved schools and continued her negative effects on teachers and students without being held accountable. If we hope for our children to achieve their fullest potential, we must hold administrators like this accountable. We must take action when an administrator causes consistently high turnover, as this hurts children in a very direct way. Please take action to hold all district personnel accountable when their actions negatively impact our children. Please pass Senate Bill 120. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next caller, please.
Caller with the last 3 digits, 044, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Good afternoon. My name is Justin Red, Justinred. I'm here to speak in favor of principals being held accountable. My last principal at my previous school was probationary, someone who had never taught in a gen ed high school class. She had never been a high school principal before. And rather than taking the time to get to know the community and the students, the principal immediately implemented drastic changes on our campus that made our school a less safe place. Class sizes through the roof, with myself included teaching classes of more than 50 students. The classes were so large, teachers could not even know all of their students, and we had a potential threat on our campus when a student who was later arrested for this threat, I should say a former student, this was a graduate, he was a person in the community who showed up on our campus and went through an entire day at school in people's classes that he wasn't even enrolled. And so in this situation, I and other teachers took every measure we possibly could through the proper channels to bring accountability to this campus. We went to our union reps. I gathered other teachers who felt similarly to me, and we tried desperately to hold this principal accountable. But that did not happen. There are simply not the means for that to occur. The current wheels of accountability don't turn fast enough against the powerful administrators union. And that administrator's supervisor was a crony with the principal, and there was no accountability for this. Instead, what happened for speaking out, I was held accountable and I was surplused away from this school that was my home. So I urge you to find better accountability for principals. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next caller, please.
Caller with the last 3 digits, 947, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin. If you're having trouble unmuting, press *6. Once again, caller with the last 3 digits, 947, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Good afternoon, Chairman Dennis, Senators of the Education Committee. My name is Kenny Belknap. That's KennyBelknap. I'm a high school social studies teacher in Clark County School District, and I'm a strong supporter of SB 120. I strongly support this bill because as a teacher, I've seen the dramatic impact administrators have on the climate and student outcomes at a building. I worked at the same building for my 7 years in CCSD, and within the first 4 years, I saw almost the entire staff, over 100 educators, leave the building. In those few years, we lost so much valuable experience, institutional knowledge, and educators who have been at the building since it opened. The only change that happened in that time is that we got a new principal and administrative staff. During this transition, I saw great educators who did really good work with students get scrutinized and nitpicked to the point where they had to leave the school, while admin turned a blind eye to educators who weren't doing a good job because they didn't rock the boat. These teachers didn't leave the school because they were afraid of working harder. They wanted to make the school a better place, but were boxed out by administration that was more interested in dictating orders, not building a school community. When administrators come in and actively try to run off educators who have been at a building for years, it hurts our kids. Our schools are supposed to be communities, and how can you have that when you have dramatic turnover year after year? Students in these schools lose out on higher quality education because these senior teachers are often replaced by new teachers, or worse, they're replaced by long-term subs. Accountability administrators won't cause a shortage of administrators. There are literally hundreds of individuals currently in CCSD's admin pool waiting for an opening. If these administrators are afraid of accountability, why not give one of those people in the pool an option and let them try it? I want to end by saying I'm shocked by the deference so many of you senators show towards our administrators during this work session. You made statements that teachers are leaving buildings because a new admin is making them work harder, or that a district's principal supervisor can't manage 30 school principals. Teachers are constantly working hard to serve our kids, and it's insulting to insinuate otherwise. There's a difference between asking people to work hard and micromanaging them. I'm glad that some of you senators are finally asking questions about people's workloads, but the fact that you worry about middle management over frontline educators who have one class period of well over 30 and sometimes 40 students is asinine to me. Maybe we can fund our schools to get those numbers down, then we can focus on getting the workload of middle management down. I hope you all pass this bill because teachers are already held accountable for everything that happens in our rooms. Why is it that principals get a free pass when they are responsible for an entire school building and students' educational careers? Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Next caller, please.
Caller with the last three digits, 007. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Greetings. For the record, my name is Dane Watson, DaneWatson, and I'm reading on behalf of a frontline educator that is currently working with our students. Hello, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Paige Myers, and I'm a nationally certified school psychologist. As a school psychologist that serves several Title I schools per year, I am in a unique position of experiencing multiple leadership styles within each school. When discussing administrator accountability, it is often focused on individual educators' experiences. As important as that is, I think it's vital that the conversation be interpreted from a broader point of view for each teacher who has shared their personal negative experiences. There is a group of students who have been directly impacted. Educator turnover impacts students in so many ways, and we know that relationships between staff and students can have a life-altering impact. A focus on 50% turnover a year is such a high threshold, it takes a far smaller percentage to drastically impact students and their ability to achieve. I worked at 2 Title I schools concurrently for 4 years, serving very similar populations. School A routinely had staff leave throughout the year due to difficult admin. I honestly do not know if there was any one year that 50% of staff left. However, at the end of the 4 years, there was at most one teacher that remained per grade level. As time passed and significant staff turnover continued, I witnessed more and more students fall through the cracks. School B had administrators who were not perfect, but were actively working with staff to move in alignment with school's mission, with a focus on multi-tier system of support for academic, social, emotional, behavioral needs. One family moved from School A, where all children in the family had extremely poor attendance, more than 30 absences each year, to School B, and by the second year, every member of that family missed less than 10 days, and I was a proud member of that school. This all changed when School B got a new assistant principal. The systems that had been improving year after year were left to run by an entirely new. Okay, in closing, the intent of SB 120 should focus on students, and we want you to urge you to support SB 120 for our students.
Thank you so much. Next caller, please.
Caller with the last three digits, 495. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin. Once again, caller with the last three digits, 495. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Greetings. For the record, my name is Sharon Whalum, SharonWhalum. I am reading on behalf of a frontline educator who is currently working with our students. My name is Michael Kewen. I have been a teacher of the Clark County School District for 20 years. In those 20 years, I have worked for a number of principals and vice principals, some good and some who needed improvement in their craft. I strongly encourage you to pass SB 120 when it comes to managing schools. The school's principal is the captain of the ship and is incumbent that there is strong guidance and direction to that should be taken when trying to improve student outcome. My experience as an educator has shown this to be very true when there is a strong, capable leader. The academic progress of students have made incredible when strong leadership was in place. The opposition happened when I worked at a principal who was not a strong leader. Everyone suffered, staff, students, and parents. I experienced it firsthand when I worked at a school that experienced 60% turnover rate in teaching positions. This was due to a large extent of how the principal worked with staff. I ended up staying at the school for another year, and this was the biggest mistake of my teaching career. The following school year, it was a disaster in every sense of the word. The morale of the school was horrendous. Test scores was decreased, negative student behavior increased. I believe that the accountability of the district personnel, including administrators, is key to transparency and effectiveness. Thank you.
Next caller, please.
Caller with the last three digits, 659. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Greetings. For the record, my name is Jordan Hankins, JordanHankins, and I am reading on behalf of a frontline educator that is currently working with our students. Hello, Chairman Dennis and members of the community. Thank you for taking a moment to consider some of the voices of those who are most directly impacted by SB 120, students, families, teachers, staff, and communities. My name is Halima Hall, and I proudly serve as a teacher of mathematics at one of the Innovative 8 turnaround schools within Clark County. Due to the state's extreme shortage of STEM educators of color, I was heavily recruited from the state of Connecticut in the fall of 2019. However, all the recruitment efforts were nearly squandered as a result of a set of incompetent administrators drunk on perceived power and not held accountable for any of the destructive consequences of their actions. In the fall of 2019-2020 school year, I joined West Prep Academy under the leadership of a very solid administrative staff with a positive school climate that laid plans for student achievement through data-informed student planning, proactive family engagement, as well as solid community partnerships. Suddenly, the district reassigned the principal without warning nor planning. As a result, this school, which had already been identified as an Innovative 8 turnaround school due to chronic underachievement, was thrown into chaos, suffering nearly 4 months with neither a principal nor a lead assistant principal. A principal was finally assigned, and without making any assessment of the status quo, students, families, staff, teachers, and our community began to feverishly deconstruct everything, bloat the administrative staff with countless personally attached new hires from the previous work location, many of whom operated under a complete cloak of unknown responsibilities. After confidentiality, expressing my concerns with the assignment of the lowest performing math teacher to teach all classes for advanced students, retaliation was my reward. As a result, my evaluation was underrated without cause and in direct contradiction to the previous administrator's assessment of my work. In verbal conversations, I was explicitly and repeatedly told that my evaluation was to the admin's discretion and there was no escalation options in Clark County. Contacted the union, and indeed, there is no escalation options. I then kindly informed the principal that oppressors always seem to forget that even the oppressed have one final option, and that is to leave. The toxic school climate cultivated by this group of administrators wreaked havoc on one of the most vulnerable student bodies within Clark County without consequence. Employee turnover skyrocketed and student achievement plummeted. Prior to my arrival, the middle school advanced algebra program included only about 20 students. I instantly expanded the program to students who did not traditionally fit the gifted criteria, bringing the total to 70 at-risk middle school students. Trusting the students' potential to excel was a complete success. 78% exceeded the NWEA MAP goals. The success story was largely due to my high expectations and unshakable belief that every student possesses untapped greatness. However, this exponential growth in student achievement was previously tossed aside by unchecked administrators' pride and self-perceived power. Even the greatest and most impactful programs go awry when suffocated by the toxicity of leadership that is not held to account. I strongly support SB 120, and I emphatically encourage you to pass it. Accountability for all district personnel, including administrators, is
Thank
key
you
for
very much.
transparency and
Thank you
effectiveness.
very much. Your time is up. Next caller, please.
Caller with the last three digits, 689. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Hello, for the record, my name is Tony Ramirez. That's Tonyramirez, and I'm reading on behalf of a frontline educator that is currently working with our students. Hello, Chairman Dennis and members of the committee. My name is Raymond Griggs, and I am a kindergarten teacher at McMillan Elementary. I write to you today to show my support for SB 120. Having worked for 6 years in a school with a very high staff turnover due to an ineffective administrator, I have seen firsthand what devastating effects it has had on staff morale and student achievement. When I came to my school, I was surprised to hear that only 6 members of the staff had returned from the previous year, and 1 quit the week before school started. This was the norm for the following 5 years, and our administrator managed to convince her revolving door of supervisors that those teachers and support staff members just didn't want to work hard. That was far from the truth. She knew that it reflected poorly on her, but she refused to take any responsibility for the constant stream of teachers leaving to work for other schools. The students were disheartened year after year to see that their favorite teacher from the previous year had moved to another school. Our administrator admonished teachers and parents year after year as our test scores declined. High staff turnover looks cold and impersonal. I have heard 4th and 5th graders say she must have quit like the last one. When their teacher is out for a few days, many positions in my school have been staffed by long-term subs instead of licensed educators. Schools develop a reputation among licensed teachers, and parents and families will move or not move to a zone where the school administrators are poorly performing. Many children see people in their personal lives quitting on them. Students should not feel that from their schools. And incompetent administrators should not be allowed to continue providing this sort of environment for our children. Please support SB 120. Thank you.
And if I could pause right there for just a minute, there are several of us that have 3:30 meetings that we need to get to so that we don't hold up the rest of the team. So I will hand the gavel over to Senator Donate. I think several of us will be going, but I just want to go on the record as being said, I was a teacher for 30 years. I was never an administrator. So I get this, but I will hand the gavel over to Senator Donate. Thank you very much.
BPS, please proceed.
Caller with the last three digits, 466. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Greetings. For the record, my name is Francesca Petrucci, FRANCESCA and I'm reading on behalf of a frontline educator that is currently working with our students. Hello, Chairman Dennis and members of the committee. I'd like to start by saying thank you for hearing my testimony on SB 120. My name is Kristen Nigro. I am currently teaching kindergarten in the Clark County School District. Time and time again, we have heard negative stories surrounding administrators and the effects they have both on educators and students. Some of these stories are awful, unprofessional, and overall shameful. The worst part is the administrators that choose to act like this do not have any accountability and half the time do not have to answer to anyone. When a school has poor leadership, it tends to have an impact on the school community as a whole. The first telltale sign of poor administration is educators leaving the school site in droves or leaving the profession altogether due to the trauma they have experienced. This is a direct negative effect on our students. The student will no longer have a licensed educator in front of them, but rather a guest teacher that may not have as much training. Research shows that students who are taught by substitute teachers have overall lower achievement compared to students who have a licensed educator teaching them. As of right now, my district currently has 750 vacancies. With the teacher pipeline shrinking more and more every year, we cannot afford to lose teachers due to rogue administrators. The teacher shortage harms students, teachers, and public education as a whole. The students that are sitting in those classrooms are your constituents' children. No child should ever be subjected to a school environment that is toxic because their principals lack good leadership qualities. There needs to be legislation in place that will help hold the administrators accountable, because that is the first step towards transparency and being an effective leader. I am asking you, as both an educator and a constituent, that you pass SB 120 so school administrators are held accountable when it comes to overall achievement and school climate. Thank you.
Caller with the last three digits, 217, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin. If you are having a hard time, oh, there you go. Please proceed.
Thank you. My name is Ed Gonzalez, ED Gonzalez. I'm the community member at Hickey Elementary School Organizational Team. I am calling in strong support of SB 120, and I appreciate the amendments that Senator Dennis has added, especially when it comes to professional development and looking at the ratios for supervisors. What I appreciate about this bill is not vindictive. I think everyone's intention is to help improve principals. And so, but I do want to highlight some things that haven't been mentioned. And so when we talked about supervisor ratios, I think that is a very good point. And so in the reorganization with AB 469 from the 2017 legislative session, it capped it at 25-1 in Clark County in CCSD. And in the following session, in 2019 session, SB 469 lifted that cap. And while this wasn't a major contention in the Senate side, in the Assembly, it was, because the district had mentioned that it took it from 25 schools to around 60 schools, 60, under testimony and questions from Assemblywoman Gorlow in the Education Committee there. And it only was a savings of $1.5 million. And as you can tell, the results on that were disastrous. Principals didn't have any type of supervision, and the district backtracked a little bit and added more supervisors to it. So when we're talking about supervision, I think it is important to look at this issue closely. A Vanderbilt study from a couple of years ago suggested a ratio of 12-19. So that is a range that has been done in the past and may be something in the interim to look at. But once again, I am in support of this bill as written with the amendments, and I thank Senator Dennis for bringing this bill forward. Thank you.
Caller with the last three digits, 874, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Hello, my name is Rebecca Garcia, REBECCA, GARCIA. I'm the president of the Nevada Parent Teacher Association. Nevada PTA supports SB 120 with the proposed amendments. The impact of a quality administrator cannot be underestimated. School principals impact student success, parent engagement, teacher retention, and the climate and culture at the school. We must ensure that our students succeed and that all adults are working towards that goal. SB 120 with the proposed amendments provides for greater accountability and professional development. Administrators have been asked to take on increasingly complex administrative duties in addition to instructional leadership. Proper support, resources, and training must be provided. In Clark County, the legislature mandated the reorganization, which granted more autonomy to principals. Accountability must also be expected. In 2019, the Review Journal reported that in the prior 4 years, not a single Clark County School District administrator had been rated as ineffective, and only one was rated as developing. Yet over 100 schools received 1- and 2-star ratings. The role of a school leader is too important to allow this disconnect to go unaddressed. I have personally dealt with the challenges as a parent and SOT chair in trying to seek support from principal supervisors, and the limitations in place make that very difficult. SB 120, with the proposed amendments, is a start towards better accountability and the critical role that principals play in our educational system. We urge your support.
Senator, there are no more callers in support at this time.
Thank you so much, BPS. Let's go ahead and proceed to anyone wishing to provide testimony in opposition. And again, please limit your testimony to 2 minutes each. Support testimony, more comprehensive testimony can be written to the committee agenda. So please proceed, BPS.
To testify in opposition on SB 120, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Once again, if you'd like to testify in opposition on SB 120, please press star 9 now. Caller with the last 3 digits, 577, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Good afternoon. Chris Daly, D-A-L-Y, Nevada State Education Association, the voice of Nevada educators for over 120 years. NSCA opposes SB 120 as an unneeded diminution of employment protections in public education. NSCA represents educators across the state of Nevada who dedicate themselves to the education of every Nevada student. NSCA believes that existing state law, which provides for at-will employment for an initial probationary period and the possibility of having to revert to an additional period of at-will employment following an evaluation of ineffective, properly balances the due process rights of the individual employees, the rights of students, and the needs of the school community. The prospect that upon the loss of a star rating, based in part on standardized testing and staff transfer requests, which may be from certain schools for commute or other reasons, is concerning. Both of these factors may have no relation to an individual administrator's performance, so an immediate termination of an administrator, potentially through no fault of their own, would have a chilling effect on education in Nevada. Administrators will be disincentivized from accepting positions in rural schools or in schools with large populations of at-risk students, making critical shortages worse. Such shortages will only harm our students. Lastly, the requirement that all associate and assistant superintendents reapply to their superintendent for reappointment demolishes the protections inherent in the civil service system. Political gamesmanship and fealty to the current regime should not come before the needs of students. Current law allows the superintendent to dismiss any employee at any level for sufficient cause. Therefore, periodic reaffirmations of allegiance are not necessary. Thank you.
Caller with the last 3 digits, 438, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you begin.
Thank you. I wasn't called when I was in the queue for positive speaking, so I'm asking the committee to allow me to speak now. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Jim Frazee, Jimfrazee. I'm a classroom teacher, and I also have the honor of being vice president of CCEA. I'm speaking today in strong support of SB 120. I want to start by saying that this bill is not an attack on administrators. This bill simply restores a minimal process for the removal of the few bad apples. As the educational leader of a building, a bad administrator can damage the education of thousands of students. Every year, CCSD spends millions of dollars trying to recruit and retain educators, sometimes going as far as the Philippines to do so. And yet every year, thousands of educators leave the district. The number one reason educators leave are bad administrators. I hear this time and time again. And who suffers are children, and most times predominantly children of color. This bill has several common sense provisions in it. Reinstating a 3-year probation period for administrators. How can it be that an educator has a 3-year probation period, but the educational leader of a building has 1 year? The administrators at central office have their employment reviewed after several years. Last year alone, CCSD had 4 high-level administrators on paid leave at a cost of over $500,000, while I had 42 students in a class that had textbooks with no covers. Our tax-paying parents deserve better. And a provision to remove a principal who drives out staff and destroys school climate. Let me be clear, there is no competent administrator who's afraid of this bill, and I've spoken to dozens of them. It is time to do what's right, and I thank you for supporting SB 120. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir, for that comment. Let the record reflect that that was in support, and right now we are in opposition. So BPS, please continue.
Caller with the last 3 digits, 745, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Chair Dennis, Senator Donate, my name is Stephen Augsburger. I'm the Executive Director of the Clark County Association of School Administrators. We represent approximately 1,300 administrators in the Clark County School District with a 98% membership. I would express my appreciation today to Senator Dennis for the amended language which is brought forward. We are yet speaking in the opposition position because we think that language at the present time does not go far enough. We believe that we can support this bill with changes made in 4 areas. I would like to review those with you. On the proposed amendment in item number 2, where it reads, add that if the teacher survey results indicate school climate is an issue, we recommend adding there as confirmed by a supervisory investigation. We would add that same language in number 3 after the word issues. So it would read that if 40% of teachers request a transfer due to school climate issues that are confirmed by a supervisory investigation, that would allow us to get closer to being able to support this bill. There are 2 other areas. One has been discussed significantly today, and that is the language in section 3 that requires administrators other than those identified in the bill to reapply for their jobs every 5 years. That language needs to be deleted for us to be in support of this bill. And then section 6 has also been discussed significantly today, is where the term administrator has been deleted from section 6. We believe for our support of this bill, that term needs to be added back into section 6. That concludes my testimony. Again, I appreciate the opportunity to speak to this bill and appreciate the amended language that has been brought forward. Thank you.
Caller with the last 3 digits, 517, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. My name is Danny Thompson, DANNYTHOMPSON. I'm here today on behalf of the Clark County School Administrators Association. I would agree with Mr. Osberger's statement. You know, if you don't make these changes, I don't know anybody would apply for a job that they had to reapply for it every 5 years. You know, you put yourself in that position. In any other industry, you would never get anybody to apply. And as for the changes in section 2 and 3 that he spoke about, you know, the teachers only need to request a transfer under that language. They don't have to actually transfer. And so without actually transferring, you know, you're going to have witch hunts and other situations where it's not fair. And I would tell you, allowing the principals to negotiate disciplinary action by putting them back in section 6 is only fair. And so as the bill stands with the current amendment, we were opposed to the bill, but could get to a place where we could support it. Thank you.
Caller with the last 3 digits, 190, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Katie Weir, Katieweir. Good afternoon, Chairman Dennis, Vice Chair Dondero Loop, and committee members. I'm testifying in opposition to SB 120. I'm a current Washoe County School District principal and was recruited by my district to move to an underperforming school. I also serve as a mentor to a new principal in my district and a mentor to an aspiring administrator through the Nevada Leads program at UNR. Those who spoke in support mentioned the current fabulous supervisors. My fear is this bill deters highly qualified and effective admin like myself from applying to lead underperforming schools. They also spoke to administrator accountability. As Vice Chair Dondero Loop mentioned, there are already many tools in NRS to address principal and administrator performance. For example, I'm a proud member of a process in my district called the Peer Assistance Review Panel, or PAR, consisting of an advisory panel and a consulting or mentor principal. The panel has an equal number of administrators recommended by the Washoe School Principals Association and the superintendent and area superintendents. The consulting or mentor principal provides direct support to the client and collects data through peer observations. Based on the data and information gathered through the program, the panel makes a recommendation to the district that could include continued use and possible revision of the focus assistance plan throughout the year, recommendations for a second year in the PAR program, return to a formal cycle of evaluation or probationary status, and/or recommendations to the superintendent regarding changes in contract. This process allows a supervisor to place an administrator in a year-long process for support and improvement tied directly to their evaluation and performance. I've participated in this process for 3 years as a member of the panel, and it is incredibly effective. Perhaps a similar system could be implemented statewide, as most testifying in support of this bill are current Clark County School District teachers and staff. Thank you so much.
Caller with the last 3 digits, 090, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Good afternoon. For the record, my name is Chelsea Capurro, CHELSEA-CAPURRO, here on behalf of the Nevada Association of School Administrators. I don't want to take up too much time. We've obviously had a lot of testimony. We would just echo the comments made by the Clark County administrators that we feel the exact same with the changes that need to be made in order to get us to a position of support here. I did also just want to mention Senator Durante made a great point about the issues that could arise related to just making this decision based on a teacher survey. And so I think even more that hits home the need that this needs to also be in conjunction and confirmed by a supervisory investigation. So again, I don't want to take up too much time, just ditto to the comments made by the other parties in opposition. Thanks.
Senator, there are no more callers in opposition at this time.
Thank you, BPS. And last but not least, is there anyone wishing to testify in neutral on SB 120?
To testify in neutral on SB 120, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. If you have recently joined the call and would like to testify in neutral on SB 120, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Senator, there are no callers in neutral at this time.
Thank you so much, BPS. Chair Dennis, would you like any closing comments before we close?
Yes, thank you. So I've been taking notes as we've heard testimony today, and we'll look at those and work with some individuals to see if we can get to something that we could get support. Once again, I'm bringing this because I at the end of the day, we want to make, all the things that we do on education, we're trying to make education better for our kids and to improve student achievement. And so that's why I brought it. So I appreciate the opportunity to be before you today, and for all the folks that have spoken and the ideas and thoughts that they have brought forward. I hope that we can get to a place where we can help, even if it's, the vast majority of our schools have great leaders, and if we could help the ones that need help, that will make it that much better for our students. So thank you for the opportunity to share this bill today.
Thank you so much, Chair Dennis, for your closing remarks. At this time, I will go ahead and close the hearing on SB 120. Next, we have public comment, but before that, I'd like to go ahead and turn the gavel back to Chair Dennis.
Thank you very much. So we have one item left on our agenda, and that's public comment. So if we could go to public comment. Once again, we're limited to 2 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. If you would like to participate in public comment, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Once again, if you'd like to participate in public comment, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, the public line is open and working. However, there are no callers at this time.
Okay, well, thank you. We don't, that is all our business for today. We will be meeting on Friday. Don't know one for sure. If I could do it earlier, we'll try to do it earlier. Depends on what the other committees are doing. So with that, we'll go ahead and call this meeting to an end. Thank you for all for being here. We are adjourned.